Maneuver is a two-player game that requires a caller and a mover. The mover transitions from position to position, and the caller decides which directions the mover will transition in. The MANØVER app was created to allow people to play a game of Maneuver on their own, without the need for another person. The computer will act as the caller and call out the positions and transitions so that you can act as the mover and focus on moving and having fun. From the MANØVER homepage, there are two ways that you can access the MANØVER app. The first option is by scrolling down and pressing the large green button that says Play a Game. The other way is by going to the menu and selecting Play and then Play a Game. Once you're on the MANØVER app page, you'll see at the top there are some instructions that outline the basics of the app. These explain how to use the app, including what the settings mean and the structure of the game. If we scroll down, we'll come to the app itself. To begin a game, we start by first preparing the app to generate the game that we want. We'll start by selecting the correct sequence settings by first pressing the Settings button. With the settings open and starting from the left, the first setting is the position difficulty. The MANØVER app randomly chooses 6 positions from a chosen pool of positions. The difficulty you select will dictate what positions are in that chosen pool. It is important to point out that when you select a position difficulty, all of the positions in the categories below that difficulty are also selected. For example, if I select level 2 difficulty setting, then the positions for my sequence will be randomly chosen from a pool including the level 2, level 1 and core positions. If I want to generate a sequence using all possible positions, then I would have to select the level 4 option. Moving on to the next setting, hold time. This is the minimum time you will have to hold each position for and ranges from 6 seconds up to 30 seconds. The longer the hold time, the more challenging the sequence will be in terms of endurance. It is important to point out that increasing the hold time doesn't affect the time you will have to transition, which will always be 6 seconds. The next setting to the right is the number of rounds. By default, this is set to 2, but as you can see, can be increased to a maximum of 8 rounds. Similarly to hold time, the more rounds you do, the more your endurance and possibly your cardio will be challenged. The last setting is the most important, which is whether the transition directions are on or off. With the directions set to on, then the app will call a direction for you to transition into the next position. For example, bear forwards to leopard. With the directions set to off, then the app won't give directional calls and will instead just say, for example, bear to leopard, leaving you to choose which direction you transition in. When you are using the app in a large space, then keeping the transition directions on allows you to practice transitioning in the same way you would for a proper game of Maneuver, where the focus is on covering the most distance possible. When your space is limited, turning the directions off and focusing on as small a transition as possible allows you to still practice, but without the risk of moving into objects in your vicinity. Once you are happy with the settings you have chosen, the next step is generating a sequence. You can either select a random sequence or a custom sequence. The custom sequence is chosen by inputting the flow IDs of 6 positions and selecting Generate Custom Sequence. Flow IDs can be found on the Positions Library tab of the website, found in the Explore section of the menu. Alternatively, you can select the Random Sequence button, which is the option we will select for this demonstration. Once the sequence has been loaded, you'll see the 6 positions chosen for the sequence, numbered from 1 to 6. The first position is on the top left, labelled 1, and the last position is on the bottom right, labelled 6. At this stage, you want to familiarise yourself with the names and body shapes of the positions so that you can recreate them during the next stage. As soon as you are comfortable with the positions, you can scroll up to the top of the page where you'll see the Start Audio button. After the button has been pressed, you'll hear a starting horn and the game will begin. So you'll want to set up your device in a space that is far enough away from you that you won't hit it, but close enough that you'll see the colour of the box that will appear on the next screen. Now that the button has been pressed, you'll move into the centre of your space and adopt the first position of the sequence. The game page has a purposefully minimal design because at this point you'll be in a position and ready to move. The 3 elements visible are the time elapsed, the number of rounds completed, and the coloured box. The coloured box should be the focus of your attention, as this is the indicator of when to transition and when to hold your position. Whenever the box is red, the computer will make a call and give you transition instructions. You should be still and in the first position at this stage. When the box turns green, that is your cue to move and follow the computer's instructions. You should have completed the transition and be in the new position by the time the box turns red again. You will then be ready for the computer's next call. The cycle repeats again and again until you have completed the game. If at any point you make a mistake or are not happy with your transitions, you can always restart the game by first pressing the Stop Audio button to pause the game. You can then press the Reset button and then either generate a new flow by pressing the New Random Sequence button or the Custom Sequence button, or you can restart the original sequence by pressing the Restart Audio button. In this case, we'll press the Restart Audio button to show you a real-life example of the sequence we generated earlier in practice. Lizard knee raise, backwards 2, long bear, backwards 2, low bear, rotate 2, low lizard, backwards 2, lizard sky reach, rotate 2, duck hip extension, backwards 2, lizard knee raise, lizard knee raise, sideways 2, long bear, backwards 2, low bear, backwards 2, low lizard, sideways 2, lizard sky reach, forwards 2, duck hip extension, forwards 2, Lizard knee raise. Game complete.